Hello, Skagway! On day 4 of our Alaskan cruise, we explored the town of Skagway. The cabin on the left was the first building constructed in Skagway in 1887, a decade before the gold rush, by Captain William Moore and his son Ben. 10 years later, in 1897, Ben and his wife built the newer house on the right for their growing family. The house was restored in 1997 based on photographs taken in 1904. It was pretty cool to get a glimpse of the past. Afterwards, we walked through the town in search of the Gold Rush Cemetery. So apparently this is how people walk their dog in Alaska. I love it. We eventually found this sign at the edge of the forest. Skagway's most famous graveyard is the Gold Rush Cemetery. Records indicate that the first burial occurred in 1898. With the exception of 2 families, the cemetery was no longer used after 1908. 133 grave sites have been located here, but burial records are available for only 60 of these. Many of the early deaths in Skagway reflect the primitive conditions and the mad rush for gold. The environment is still a major cause of death in the north today. This sign included several interesting stories about the people buried in this cemetery. Here's one example. Several unknown persons are buried in the cemetery, but the story behind this one is the most famous. At about 3 p.m. on September 15, 1902, a man walked into the Canadian Bank of Commerce in Skagway. Under his coat, he carried several sticks of dynamite and a pistol. When he asked the teller for all her money, she fled to the rear of the bank. In an attempt to pull out the pistol and threaten the teller, his gun discharged and caused the dynamite to explode. Some stories indicate that the man's head was the only part of his body recovered. We still don't know his name since there wasn't much left to identify. Rest in peace to all the souls that lost their lives in Skagway. Let's take a moment of silence for these folks. So after all the tourists leave from the shuttle bus, it's actually really quiet here. It's really eerie, but just some self-reflection. It's just crazy to think that people came all the way out here in search of gold for a better life, and they didn't get the better life. So you have to rethink your priorities in life. It's a good reminder that gold is not that important. Yeah, don't chase that money. Enjoy life. Very spooky. Yeah, rest in peace. Life is more valuable than gold. That is the lesson of today. And I see some beautiful waterfalls coming up here. The Lower Reid Falls are only a quarter mile from the cemetery, with 50 feet of elevation, so it was a pretty easy hike with a beautiful reward. This waterfall is rushing! The American dipper is the only aquatic songbird in North America. Dippers are named for their characteristic habit of dipping or bobbing up and down while perched on a rock. This function isn't well understood, but some believe the action of dipping may help them spot prey beneath the surface of the water or help conceal their image from predators. Dipping may also be a form of visual communication between birds and their noisy environment, which is usually a fast-moving stream. Dippers usually forage underwater, so they're well adapted to their cold, watery habitat. They have a thick coating of down and feathers as insulation. They secrete oil, which makes their feathers waterproof, and they even have a flap over their nostrils that seals up when the bird is underwater. Apparently today Meg is hiking in a dress. After a wonderful morning of exploring, we walked back to town for our next big adventure, which I was really excited about. This is a must-do for anyone visiting Skagway. I was really upset because all the train tickets for this tour were sold out online, and I really wanted to do this. However, when we walked into the train station, we were able to buy tickets there. The trip cost about $150 per person, but was worth every single penny. The White Pass Summit excursion route starts from Skagway, Alaska at 0 feet of elevation and climbs 2,888 feet up to the White Pass summit, turns around in British Columbia, and returns to Skagway. This is a 40-mile round trip, which takes about 2.5 hours. In 1896, gold was discovered in the Bonanza Creek in the Klondike, near the present town of Dawson City in the Yukon. This discovery of gold triggered the famous Klondike Gold Rush. The Klondike was so hard to reach via the rugged Chilkoot Pass that the Canadian government required each miner to travel with a year's worth of supplies before embarking on their journey. In search of an easier route, Captain William Moore and Skookum Jim headed north over uncharted territory and discovered a different route which was named the White Pass.
We're on a train in the mountains.
This will wake you up. Yeah, I was sleeping. In 1897, news of the discovery of gold in the Canadian Klondike spread like wildfire. Tens of thousands of people arrived in Skagway to begin the treacherous trek to the Klondike. Some prospectors chose the shorter but steeper Chilkoot Trail, which was 33 miles long, while others chose the longer, less steep White Pass Trail, which was 45 miles long. Many chose the White Pass Trail, believing that pack horses could be used, but sadly, the terrain was too challenging for horses and many of them died. Clearly, a better way to travel to the Klondike was necessary. In May of 1898, construction of the railroad began. At no time during the construction period were fewer than 1,000 men employed, and often as many as 2,000 men. It was quickly found that the native timber was worthless because it splintered too easily. As a result, all the timber had to be imported. Altogether, more than 450 tons of explosives were used to create this railway. Okay, we're going on a bridge. At least 35 workers were killed in construction accidents before the railroad was completed. The White Pass and Yukon route climbs from sea level in Skagway to almost 3,000 feet at the summit in just 20 miles and features steep grades of 3.9%. Employing a switchback near milepost 19, the main track was completed to the White Pass summit in February of 1899, just 9 months after its initiation. 2 years later, a steel cantilever bridge was built which eliminated the cumbersome switchback.
I think the bridge is broken. Hopefully we're not going there.
Thankfully, we did not go on that broken bridge. The steel cantilever bridge construction started in 1898 and was completed in 1901. At the time, it was the highest steel cantilever structure in the world, at 215 feet above the Dead Horse Gulch. The gulch was named this way because 3,000 horses died on the White Pass Trail due to harsh trail conditions. The bridge was in operation until 1969 when a new bridge was built to handle heavier trains.
Happy we did not go on that bridge. Instead, we're gonna go on that bridge. Så kan man ha med sig? Wow. We're going through a tunnel here. Again, it's gonna be dark. Wow. Well, that's a pretty narrow fucking tunnel here. Hold your breath.
In July 1899, the first train reached Lake Bennett in British Columbia at milepost 41. Now the journey that used to take multiple days of hiking could be reached by rail in just 3 hours. While construction crews built their way north, another crew came from the north, heading south, and met in Carcross in July of 1900.
Okay, it's getting cold. We got snow.
Building the 110 miles of track was a challenge in every way. Construction required cliff-hanging turns of 16 degrees, building 2 tunnels, and numerous bridges and trestles.
Yeah, we're in BC. Hello, Canada! Oh, there's a beach. Somehow now we're in a desert.
35,000 men worked on the construction of the railroad. The $10 million project was a product of British financing, American engineering, and Canadian contracting. Tens of thousands of people and 450 tons of explosives overcame the harsh environment to create this wonder of steel and timber. For decades, the White Pass and Yukon route carried ore to Skagway to be loaded on ships. The railroad was operated by steam until 1954, then transitioned to diesel-electric motive power. In 1982, metal prices plummeted, so mines shut down and the railroad suspended its operations. In 1988, the White Pass and Yukon route reinvented itself as a tourist attraction. The line reopened to offer excursions between Skagway and the White Pass summit. The active line was later extended to Bennett in the 1990s and to Carcross in 2007. We couldn't leave Skagway without visiting the famous Red Onion Saloon. Built in 1897 during the height of the gold rush, the Red Onion Saloon operated as one of the finest bordellos in town. The staff were wearing fun outfits and there was lots to look at on the walls. After a long day of exploring, it was finally time to get back to the cruise ship.
Okay, well, finally we were really excited that the little train was not sold out. It said it was sold out on the internet, but we were able to get on, and it was very cool, and the scenery was beautiful, but it was very hot. So I just stood outside the whole time and saw some nice views. So overall, Skagway, very nice. We went to the saloon, that was great. Now it's time to get back on the boat. Look at that. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. I hope that you'll enjoy our sail away from Skagway and the rugged beauty of our outbound passage. I wish you all a wonderful evening here on board and a restful night. Thank you.
The scenery was so beautiful, we just had to do the classic Titanic pose, followed by a mandatory photo shoot.
Goodbye, Skagway, that was beautiful. Look at this. Wow. We've already lost the sun at like 6 o'clock because the mountain is blocking it. Well, this is pretty. Wow. Oh, very windy too. Even in Alaska, you get some wild forest fires. It sucks. Ja.
Lekker vis.
Sånn var
Oh,
det.
did you? Artsy head.
Look at this scenery! This is crazy! Meg said this is the dream that we never knew we had. This is amazing. Look at that. And also we just saw 4 porpoises, so yeah. So here we have the loneliest little lighthouse on this tiny little island in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. I wonder if someone lives in there.
For dinner, we had delicious Italian food, but of course, I forgot to take pictures other than this one. little bit windy. We wanted to look at the sunset, but it's too windy.
Yeah, we're blown away.
Blown away by the wind. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Next up, we head over to Sitka. Until next time, adios.